What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Daddy Jeep Garage. This week, we're going to tackle a couple of projects that are way overdue on the WJ. We're going to install some rock sliders because I've been beating the crap out of my rocker panels, and we're going to install some rock lights from Suparee. So I lost my audio footage on this, so I'm going to go ahead and do a voiceover. So what I am showing you here is the beginning stages of prepping for my new rocker panels. So my current rockers I've been beating the crap out of. You may have seen in an earlier video, they were dented when I bought this thing. So it's well overdue to put in some proper rock sliders. So I went ahead and I picked up some 2x6 188 wall rectangular steel tubing that I'm going to weld in place of my current rocker panels. So the first step here is I went ahead and I ran a tape line all the way across, even with the bottom of the door, so I have a nice straight edge to follow. So that'll be the first step, is cutting that outer edge of the rocker, pull that down so I can see what's inside and figure out what I have to cut next. All right, that's going to do it for my lunch break today. I'm happy I got this cut out reasonably straight, and I dug out as much of this foam as I could because when I start welding this up, I don't want to light this crap on fire and burn down my Jeep and my shop. So I got the foam. There's a bunch of it in this back corner, but I got it up there 8 or 10 inches from where I'm welding, so I should be in pretty good shape. Double check again when I'm ready to weld. So now that that's all out of there, I got to get this inner middle layer cut out and as accurately as possible around this B pillar, because that is structural. So I want to make sure that's a good clean cut so that B pillar at least sits on top of my rocker panel. It might not be attached, but at least it's going to have the strength of sitting on top of it. So definitely want to be real careful cutting that. So that's the next step, but now it's time to get back to work. So I'll see you in a little bit. We're back at it. It's 10 o'clock at night now, so a little bit after my lunch break. But I had another truck to fix. I had to do some more exhaust work, so we got that done out of the way. Gonna make a couple dollars. Now we can get back onto the Grand Cherokee. So I went ahead and I put it up on a lift. It's going to make some of it a little harder, but I think it's going to make some of it a little easier. So we're going to see how it goes from up here. I had to get the tires off and out of the way anyway. So next step is I went ahead and I put a nice shiny new Milwaukee torch Sawzall blade in the DeWalt reciprocating saw. And I'm going to try to follow this line as straight as I possibly can. And I'm going to start with the hard stuff, which again is this B pillar mount, where I know there's several layers of steel. So we're going to try to work our way across that, keep it good and straight. All right, I'm sure I'm going to have to do a little bit of grinding to square up some stuff, but that's it. That's end to end. So now I need to go up underneath and I need to cut across the bottom, pretty much flush with this back edge. I'll probably bring you under there with me so I can show you exactly what we're doing under there. Another view of the carnage. Look how much I smashed all of that up into there. But anyway, that's not why we're under here. We're under here to show where I'm going to cut. So this boxed section here is where we're going to weld to. So I need to cut it right along this edge. I'm going to save this down piece. We're going to weld right here where the 2x8 lines up. It's going to be a little lower. It's going to be about half an inch below that edge. So it's going to give us a nice edge to weld there all the way back. So that's our next cut. All right, this chunk of rocker panel has officially been liberated from the Jeep. So definitely pretty mangled. We'll add that to the trophy wall. I found some more foam we got to take care of. But progress has been made. All right, I've done a whole bunch of grinding and fitting and grinding and cutting and more fitting, and I am now 100% happy with how this fits. It fits good. I've got it clamped tightly against that back wall that I retained. I've got it cut flush with my door because I will be trimming this at some point. I do have my cuts were a little sloppy inside, but that's okay. We'll just weld some new metal over top of that, and I will be capping these ends. But it's getting late. It's almost midnight. I need to get this done because I've got a different Jeep that's got to go on a lift tomorrow. So I need to get this tacked in place. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to fire up the old Eastwood welder and get this at least somewhat welded in place so we can call it a night. All right, so we are underneath the Jeep trying to get these rockers finish welded, and I was struggling to keep my gaps on the inside nice and tight. So I figured the best solution is to build my own custom tool. So I took a pair of just cheap Harbor Freight welding pliers, and I took a scrap chunk of that same tubing, and I made a big set so I can clamp all around that tube and then keep that nice and tight. So it's custom built to this width. When I'm done with it, I'll probably keep it because you never know, I might need it again, or maybe I'll cut apart and use it for something else. But it makes it perfect because now I have a nice tight gap here to weld. I'm not trying to hold this in place while I weld it. I can clamp it nice and secure. I can weld on either side in the center of that clamp, and I can get nice stitches pretty much the whole way across here. So we got the other side already welded. We're going to finish up this side now, and then be time for some paint here pretty soon. I still have to cap the ends. I have one end capped. I have a couple of more end caps to make, but this is the last little bit of welding that I need to do on the bottom side. So let's get to it. All right, so I did drive this last weekend. So my first patch has already got some rust on it. You got to love our wonderful humid environment here in Pennsylvania. But this one, I went ahead and I bridged the tube up to the body. But now that I think about it, I'm contemplating making these rock rails air tanks as well. So that means that one's not going to seal up well. So I'm going to have to do something different. So this front one that I started over here, I sealed up just the end of the tube so I can make sure that it's airtight. And then, of course, I ran out of gas, so I couldn't finish that one. I got to get it tied into the body a little bit more. And when I'm done capping the end, I'm going to cut this rib off, and then I'm still going to bridge it up into the body a few inches just to add a little more strength to things. But for now, I'm out of gas, so I'm done for the night. It's 11 o'clock. I'll see you tomorrow. So all the welding is done. Now it's time to seam seal. I like to spend the money and get this good 3M 08367 seam sealer. From what I understand from my previous research is this stuff is the best. You pay accordingly, though. This stuff is not cheap. But I'm going to go over every weld seam that goes between the rocker and the existing body panels to make sure I seal that up really well. So I'm going to go over every bit of weld, and hopefully this one tube gets it done. All right, final step for this rocker panel project is putting a little bit of paint on them so they don't rust. I've already got a few coats on there. I used a lighter green for a base. Then I used some of this darker green that's on the bottom. Now I'm going to kind of do the bottom and wherever else I can with some black, just because I don't have much of that dark green. Actually, it's all gone, so going to use some black to kind of get these to blend in a little bit. Maybe at some point we'll come back with some white lines and stuff to make them match, but I think they'll be okay the way this is going to be. So we're just going to get some paint on these so we can move on to the next thing. Just kind of misting it with some black just to darken it, make it kind of blend in with the darkness of the existing paint. All right, guys, so we got the rocker panels done. We got them painted. We got that portion of it done. We can check that off the list on the whiteboard. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install these cool LED rock lights the guys from Suparee sent me. These lights come in a nice package, sold as a set. So we get 6 of these. So these are the actual rock lights themselves. They look to be a pretty nice unit. Let me bring in nice and close. They got a whole bunch of LEDs in there. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 LED chips on each one of these. It's all pre-wired, has nice little plug-in connectors. So pretty slick setup. We get some adhesive double-sided tape to stick these to the bottom of the vehicle, which I certainly wouldn't trust on the things I do with my vehicles. Oh, we got some instructions. I'm sure we're going to need those. Oh, so we have this wiring harness, which looks to be the power side. There's a fuse in there. This on-off button, maybe. Might not use this because I still have some open panels in my Oxito switch panel, so I'm gonna run it through that. I might not use that harness at all, but this harness, this is the control box that runs all of the lights. Again, it's all pre-terminated, pretty nice stuff. And then it's got a remote, and you can also run the lights through an app. So once we get it all set up, oh, look at that. You can scan that to get your app. That's pretty slick. But we'll see how we're going to control this a whole lot later. But for now, we just need to figure out where we're putting all these lights. I have some ideas. I think I know what I want the lights to do. I don't know if it's possible to do that, so I need to get that app downloaded and look. Yeah. So the only downfall to a pre-terminated harness like this is if you have extra wires, you got to find something to do with it. You're not going to shorten these, so you have to have some wires coiled up somewhere. But we'll figure all that out. Step one is get all the lights in place, and we'll go from there. All right, we're back on the Suparee light install. So I've got one kind of mounted to this splash guard. It'll move around a bit, but that really seemed like the best place to mount it up front. Then I've got them down both sides. Try to keep them as close to even from the front tire versus the back tire. Of course, you can see the rock sliders all done here. So I've got those two mounted. I picked up some little plastic wire ties and a bunch of self-tappers. So I self-tappered the lights to the floor, self-tappered all of the wiring in place, and then the front wiring, I actually bundled up and ran across this transmission cross member. They sent zip ties. I've got it zip tied in a bunch of places. And then I get over to this side where I'm running it up through and tying it into my Oxito power distribution center. And I had some extra wire, so I just kind of ran it back and forth, and I taped the crap out of it to keep everything tidy and up out of the way. So that is the downfall of the pre-terminated wiring harness like this, is I've got a bunch of extra wire I had to do something with. So again, I just put a lot of tape on it, made it all one solid unit up through there, and I've got it zip tied to an existing wiring bracket right there, so that works pretty good. So now we just got to get it terminated up top. All right, so we're under the hood now. I didn't show you all of this stuff, so I went ahead and I tied my ground into this existing ground here, and then I tied my power. I went ahead and cut off the fuse that came on this wiring harness because I wired it into my existing Oxito switch panel. So this wire is now going to be for my rock lights. And again, a bunch of extra wiring. I just coiled it all up and shoved it down in here beside the battery. And then there's this little switch. I'm just going to leave this switch on because I'm going to power it on through the Oxito, so I don't need to worry too much about that switch. Hopefully having it under the hood isn't going to be a major problem because, well, that's where it's going to have to live in my configuration. So it's time to fire this thing up and see how they work. So of course it comes with a remote control because these are RGBs, which means we can control a crap ton of colors. So of course with my Jeep, they need to be green. So I just switch the green, and then these buttons up top, I can control my brightness. Looks like they're already all the way up, but if I could turn them down at least, so they're a little less obnoxious. I don't know why we'd want that. We want full-on obnoxious. And then you can run some of these programs that it'll just kind of work through the colors, so you can be flashy and show off at your local mall or wherever you're going to be doing stuff at. Different patterns, different speeds. This one's more of a fade. It's even called fade. Look at that. This is quick, so it's still a fade, but a little faster. There's slow, flash. That'll induce seizures there in case you want to do that. Auto. So jump, the one that cycles through is pretty cool. You could do some that are that shows a music icon. I don't think it actually ties into your music, but maybe it kind of does. But again, for what I do, I'm just going to put them on green because I like green. It matches my Jeep. But really easy install. Again, the only downfall to this really is all the all the pre-terminated ends make it so you have to deal with some extra wire and you got to wrap it up. But it's not the end of the world. Do it neatly, tape it up so you can tie things up out of the way. All in all, it's a pretty good install. Nice lights. I'll put a link down below so you can get your own. Again, they're from Suparee. Again, they're a decent light. They're not overly priced. They put out a fair amount of light, as you can see. So a pretty good product. Make sure you use a link to get some for yourself. And I think that's going to wrap up this video. So we got the rock sliders done. We got the rock lights done. So pretty big steps. I've wanted to get both of those done for a really long time. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you get your lights from Suparee, and we'll see you next time.